the Onside Kick. Ricky Widmer here along with Dave Oster.
Hey, guys.
And Mark Weber.
How's it going?
And we're here like we are every week to talk about the world of sports. Today, we're going to talk about Derrick Rose, the Chicago Bulls, and the Bulls' future moving forward. Going to recap the Bears-Rams game while previewing the Bears-Vikings game, and then talk a little bit about the college football Heisman race. But guys, now that Derrick Rose has injured his other knee, a big kind of word that's been coming out in Chicago, many Bulls fans are questioning, should the Bulls tank this year to get a higher draft pick?
I certainly think the Bulls should go for the higher draft pick, but as far as tanking goes, players not giving effort definition, no, I'm not for that. I'm for the Bulls organization as a whole making the moves necessary to put us in a position to get better draft picks, which may mean not having the best players on the court because we're trading them, such as Dang, Boozer. We need to use these guys who have a high value right now around the NBA, who can be used by teams, trying to make that push, trying to become elite teams, and we can ship them off for future picks and use that to rebuild around the core of Noah, Taj, and really get this team going in a different direction. Because right now with Rose, 2 injuries to the knees, you can't really count on him because he's missed so much time. So I think we just need to repurpose this team's direction.
So you've mentioned the word direction now a few times. The one thing I'm thinking, are you hinting at maybe not building this team around Derrick Rose?
That is my thought. Yes, exactly what I'm thinking. Because you've got a player who's now going to miss the second year.
Second straight year. And, in high school, he had a couple injuries that lingered. Now this is 2 in the pros. And you just have to start wondering, is this a guy who, he has all the potential in the world, but his body just can't keep up with his aggressive style? Well, and I don't know, I'm a Derrick Rose fan and I'm a Bulls fan. My heart wants to say that we can still build around Derrick, but just his play style, he's got to play the way he does. Because what do we have? We don't have, for how many years have we been saying, we got to find Batman as Robin. We got to find Batman as Robin. Well, do we still do that? Or does Derrick Rose come back after this and alter his game, maybe not going as aggressively to the hole as he does?
But when is Derrick Rose coming back? He's gone for this season. Are we just going to wait next season? What's the point of this season here? It's a weird position to be in because your star, the guy you've been building around and pretty focused, building around because we don't have that second guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we have something like this right now. It's just not a good place to be in. We're only 14 games into the season. We're already talking about tanking. That's how bad it is.
Well, the Utah Jazz have been talking about tanking from preseason.
They're not the Chicago Bulls, though. They're not a team that was, just a few years talking about getting into the finals.
Yeah, they were in the preseason conversation for being the favorite to win the finals.
I feel like the tanking term is coming up for just in Chicago in general because look at our conference. Indiana, only 1 loss this season. They're going to be...
That was to the Chicago Bulls, by the way.
I feel like Indiana, Miami, now that Derrick Rose is injured, that's my Eastern Conference Finals prediction right now. I know I said the Bulls were going to do stuff this year, but they don't have Derrick Rose, so obviously that's thrown out the window.
So right there, we're writing off an entire year because of that. That's what Mark's saying. I feel like
it's what we've talked about even last year was Derrick Rose is gone. Can we be the 4 or 5 seed? Yes, but what is that going to do for us for the future?
Exactly.
Nothing.
In the NBA, there's clear lines of, okay, you're now in the bracket for competing for a championship, you're now in the rebuilding bracket, or you're stuck in the middle muddle. And there's absolutely nowhere to go there because you're stuck. Well, do we make the move? Do we throw down the extra cash to try to get that big free agent? Do we try to make the big trade acquisition to get somebody in here to take us to the next level? Or do we flip it, go the other way, get rid of the value we do have, and go for rebuilding? I think that is what offers the Bulls the best chance of getting this team back together. The problem is Derrick Rose just can't be counted on because of all these injuries. Great player, love him as an athlete, but we need to start building this team around someone else. I think you've got to go Noah, Taj, and Butler because right now there are 3 core players. They've had consistent results for the past year, and I think there's a pretty high upside with Butler. We haven't seen a lot out of him yet, but I think he's got a chance to be one of the standout players in this team.
An issue, though, for the whole idea of tanking, you don't want to tank by having guys play badly.
Right.
You want to have them tank by getting the young guys out there, getting some lesser players that we get from wherever because we traded guys away. How much value can we really get for a lot of our players, though?
I think right now, Mark, the best value will still come from Deng because he's a great wing defender and he can take the ball to the hoop. So I think between those two abilities, you can fetch a decent pick. I mean, you won't get like number 1 overall. You can probably get a late lottery pick out of a team, which is all you're really looking for in the NBA. That's the thing. You can't really do like the suck for luck with the NBA because you're not guaranteed anything. So as long as you get in that lottery, you've got a chance. You've got hope at getting, something great. And in the NBA, talent is so lopsided with that top, 10 picks, and then everything else is just kind of meh. So I think you could get rid of Deng for a lottery pick and maybe like something else. Lottery pick plus is what I'm looking at. And Boozer, I don't know what direction they're going to take because his name has been thrown around for like the past 4 years, basically.
Boozer, for me, I like what you were saying about Deng. Deng is a guy that if you're going to trade him this season, you're doing what you're saying. You're getting either lottery picks or you're getting something that's going to help the team. Boozer, though, you're basically trading him to free up cap space. That's why you're trading
Boozer,
him.
though? Is anyone going to take him? Does anyone want
there's a
Boozer?
team by the trade deadline that's looking to make a push. They'll be like, oh, big guy?
Do they want a
Big
double-double guy? He can double-double. I mean, it's
Very much an underperformer, though.
He has shied away from the spotlight in the playoffs. But I don't know. I think it's a reputation thing with Boozer, or a perception thing maybe because we've seen him in Chicago so long. Other teams, when he was not on the Bulls, it was always like, oh, he seems like kind of a dirty, gritty player, but he gets the job done. He seems like he's pretty good. But when
he also played with Darren Williams for a while in Utah.
Well, the thing is, now that he's in Chicago, we see him from a different spotlight. I think other teams still see value in him, and they're right to. He's put up a couple of double-double back-to-back games. He's not super consistent on game every night, but he does put up a good stat line. He will provide defensive help down low, and he can shoot the ball from like 8 to 10 feet out. So I think he can provide some value. And like you said, Ricky, open up the cap space.
Well, and another thing with Boozer, if you're another team looking to trade for him, you don't have to be like, oh, we're going to be stuck with Boozer for a while. He's a free agent after next season. So you're stuck with him maybe for, like, let's say you trade for him All-Star break-ish this season. It doesn't pan out. You don't make it to the playoffs. Well, you only have one season with him.
Now, here's something I got to say, though. I don't think the Bulls... I don't want to say I don't think the Bulls should tank, because logically, being able to get a better player, at least a chance at a better player, yeah, I'm all for that. But you got Thibodeau out there. He's not going to tank. And you got, even if you get rid of Boozer, you get rid of Deng, this is a team that with so many injuries last season still were able to get past the first round of the playoffs. They still were able to keep going because of the defensive system. We're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. It doesn't matter who's out there. We're still going to get that part done. We will still be 4 or 5 seed in the East. We'll still do decently. And we're just kind of stuck in that middle point. Thibodeau's not going to let this team tank, and these kind of bench players aren't going to let him tank either.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because it was an article that I've read that just said 5 reasons why tanking doesn't need to happen in Chicagoland on PippenAin'tEasy.com. I posted that to my Facebook and actually got comments. One of them actually going along with that, where if we're going to be mediocre and just kind of, let's say, make it 4 or 5 and then lose in the playoffs, that's the same as being bad. If you're not going to make it to the championship, what's the point, though?
If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah, basically. I mean, as a Bulls fan, I'm sick of being good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough to go anywhere, if that makes sense.
And there's actually more upside to being the worst team in this case, because you do get the chance at the better pick. I think the biggest deal, I agree with you. Thibodeau would not allow this team to tank willingly. It just doesn't seem like his mentality. But the upside I see in the possibility of it, or the idea of it, is we would get to see some of these younger guys play more, so we'll actually know what they're worth. because one of the big things everybody has against Thibodeau is his distrust for young players, maybe his reluctance to give them more playing time. We've seen this with our former first-round pick, Teague. He's gotten very little minutes. Even with Derrick Rose injured, he still went to free agency to get guys to play in front of him. He went back and had Heinrich pretty much run this offense. He had Nate Robinson. He doesn't trust Teague out there. I mean, Teague does have some turnover problems. So how are you going to fix that? By giving him playing time.
Teague averaged 8.2 minutes per game last season.
Exactly, and that's without Derrick Rose.
We did have Nate Robinson was Nate Robinson, though.
He wasn't
year.
phenomenal 24/7.
No, but
that's
was better than everyone expected. They were like, whoa, Nate Robinson can do this?
He didn't start out like that, though.
No, but he got
hot at
there,
the right
is what
time.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
But for the majority of the regular season, which did not matter 90% of the time, Teague just sat on the bench. And that's the thing. Right now, we were excited to see Tony Snell finally get some actual minutes. I mean, he'd gone 1 minute, 0 minute, 1 minute, 0 minute, 4 minutes.
Well, the past 3 games, he was sitting the Utah-LA game at maybe like around 26, 27 minutes. And then against Detroit, gets 37, actually put up 13 points, made 3 of 5 threes, something that Mark, on our reaction video to drafting him, the comments were telling us to look for this, and we finally saw it.
We saw it for a game, and he's, building up now. He's hopefully going to get some of that kind of under his belt. Maybe it's just some confidence, just kind of getting used to the speed of the NBA. But are we going to get to see him play more?
Exactly, and that's the big question with Tom Thibodeau is, okay, we've got a little glimpse of the rookie. Can we see them play more? We need to know what we have on our bench. I mean, we know the older guys. We know Thibodeau likes sticking with the older crew because they'll follow his system. They'll do everything he asks them to. But we need to know what the younger assets have if we're going to build this team around anyone else. It's just that big thing. How many years are we going to wait for Derrick Rose to be healthy so we can make that push? And I think we've waited enough. I think you need to take this team and turn it into a different direction.
Well, the only thing that I have against your how long have we waited for Derrick Rose, I'm taking this injury as one big long injury. There wasn't enough. The comeback wasn't enough to say he was injured, came back injured. I'm just basically in my mind going, he was injured against the Sixers, and he's been out until then. Because, at this point...
That's a long time to wait for a player, though. And, I'm a Derrick Rose fan as well. I think we all are here in Chicago.
Absolutely.
But it's a long time to wait for somebody to just say, we'll just kind of be mediocre and just kind of sit in the same position we always have been in.
Meanwhile, other teams are making moves and improving themselves, and we're just in a holding pattern, hoping that, okay, the move we made this year doesn't really matter at all. Now we have to look towards next year. And like you said, we're on, week 4 of the NBA? Come on.
Well, and another thing, just going, with the tanking, is we mentioned Thibodeau not playing rookies. What if we trade Dang for a lottery pick, get a good guy in the lottery? Will he play next season? Looking forward?
If you get a guy in the lottery, he has to.
You would think so.
He has to. If you get a guy in the lottery, and we're in the Chicago Bulls situation where there is no clear star, because without Derrick Rose, who is it? Jimmy Butler?
I think you lean towards Butler, Boozer, and Taj. I think those 3 banging the boards. You got 2 guys who just absolutely grab every rebound in sight. And Butler, we're still trying to figure out exactly what he does, but so far he's impressing everybody.
So you have this situation where we can't even, in this room, we can't even decide on who the star should be. But in this situation, if you get a guy in the lottery, congrats, this is your star. Hope it works out.
Well, the one thing that's going on in my head, and I know I'm just going to throw out the word conspiracy theory, what happened the last time we were a lottery pick and there was a kid coming out of college from Chicago? Just saying.
Yeah, no,
could happen again with Jabari Parker.
Well, to the point you're making about, will our rookie even see playing time? I think that is just a Tom Thibodeau issue, is he doesn't trust in his players enough. Or he doesn't trust in his young players maybe enough. I just think that as a whole, the team just needs to get more playing time. We need to see what develops this year and make the decision based off that. And like you said, okay, let's just play a crazy game here where, okay, we can get rid of Deng and we pick up a lottery pick and something else on top of that. And then, we have that extra contract room open up. Okay, now we need to look at if we can amnesty Boozer. Because remember, he is still one of the, I think, the only player.
I didn't even think about amnestying him.
Yeah, I mean, if we obviously trading him is the first thing. If we're just going to trade him
for cap room, then just amnesty him.
Well, either way, you need to move him off the team if he's not part of the future goal. And he's getting to be an older guy. He's not the young spring chicken out there.
We can replace him with Taj. That's what
we're thinking, yeah. Mm-hmm. We've seen enough out of Taj to know that, if you give Taj full minutes, he's pretty comparable. He's younger. He's a little more aggressive. And then that opens up all this cap room. Crazy idea. What happens? Mel is a free agent. If we go out there and get Mel, solves our scoring problem. And because of Tom Thibodeau's system, we now have a group defense that covers up for the lack of defense or effort on Melo's end. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of options to solve the problem. It just gets how creative the Bulls are.
My only question with that is the whole Melo thing. When Derrick does come back, and I'm talking about next season, who gets the ball? Because I feel like unless Derrick Rose changes his play style, Melo and Rose, our players, need the ball in their hands.
All right, I'll give you my honest opinion on Rose coming back from an injury. After 2 years off, we saw him, after 1 year off, shooting 35% in this short season, still trying to knock off the rust. That's an 8% drop in his field goal percentage, similar to the amount of time and percentage drop that Michael Jordan had when he left to play baseball for a year. So we're tossing on another year on top of that now for Derrick Rose, who's already not a very good field goal shooter. So we're hoping that this young kid who has a frail body, who's injury prone, and also very poor field goal shooter, and we're going to keep giving him the ball to make the shots. I say if he can become more of a distributor, and he can still drive to the lane, but his outside shooting is just terrible.
Of course, this is all going off the what-if game.
Yeah.
You got to think about that. So let's even go a different direction in the what-if game. Let's say we don't get that. We're not going to get one of the big guys. We're not going to get Carmelo Anthony. We're not going to be able to make a run at LeBron, at Kobe, at Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, whoever. So maybe by some chance we get a good pick. We get a young guy. Probably not Parker. That's probably not going to happen. I don't think we can even just hope we can get that high up. But let's say we get somebody good. He can put up some numbers. What do we do next? What is the goal for the Chicago Bulls? Are we just at square one and we just start over again? Now let's rebuild around this, or what are we trying to do with this team?
I'm going to throw out two names, and one of them I'm going to give credit to Dave because he pointed. I totally forgot about Doug McDermott. You pointed to him on my screen.
Absolute stud,
but what about guard Marcus Smart out of Oklahoma State? Because today I was watching a little bit of the OKC or the Oklahoma State Butler game, and the announcer said, not comparing him to LeBron James, but saying that in high school, he was a LeBron-type player that could play in the post, could play the guard, could play anywhere on the court. Yes, that's not going to happen anymore, but he still has the size at 6'4" to play guard. He can maybe play small forward. He can be a point guard, shooting guard. Very flexible player and an option for the Bulls, I would say.
Yeah, and these are, like I think we said earlier in the cast, the top end of this draft is so soaked with talent. As long as we get a pick in the top 10, top 5 would be amazing. That's where you're looking at just standout stars right off the bat. But top 10, you look at some very talented players. And I think the whole thing with my rebuild thought was that Derrick Rose, he can't be the key to be built around. Because right now our whole system was based off of him being aggressive, him driving to the hole, and then distributing out, us crashing the boards for any missed layups or close shots. And it was a good system if he was there. Now we need to work on a different system. We still have the boards. So I say my whole thought was, okay, Melo, long shot, obviously. And it's just hypothetical. But he would solve our scoring problem. But as the whole team goes, we're a pretty underwhelming offensive team. Well, Carmelo plays offense. There we go. He doesn't play defense. Guess what? We have a scheme defense that uses every member on the court to cover up for each other's weaknesses. And we're just a phenomenal defense. So it seems like it would almost be like a perfect fit. But again, I'm counting Derrick Rose as like a different type of player than he has been seen. So it's a lot of what ifs.
And I can understand that. I think an issue is right now, though, we have like you said, we set it up where we have a lot of perimeter shooting, and we can just kind of let Derrick Rose do his thing. Is that something we can do in the future? Do we have to get rid of Dunleavy? Do we have to get rid of Snell? Do we have to get rid of these 3-point specialists that we have and these perimeter shooters so that way we can go in a different direction? Because we don't really have the guy to go and take it straight up in the middle and right to the hoop. Do we need that? Or what are we going to do? Are we going to try and find, Derrick Rose, Carmelo Anthony? Is that what we're looking for? And there's just so many questions right now for this team. I don't know. What is the clear-cut thought?
I just thought of something. It's going back to your idea, Dave, where you said, let's say we do get Melo. There's one player that I just thought of that I totally forgot about that isn't going to go. He might not go in the top. He might go in the top 20, maybe not even the first round. Keith Appling out of Michigan State. It's a guy who's a senior point guard, doesn't need the ball in his hands, can drive to the basket, but can also pass to a shooter like Melo.
And honestly, that's a great thing that we would require is somebody who is a passer first and drives. That's it. Outside shooting doesn't matter. That's why I think you can still use Derrick Rose, and he's still going to be an okay player if he's healthy.
I know what you're going to say, and I don't like hearing it, but you're going to say a number with man, and I'm not going to like it. You're going to say 6 man.
I don't even know if I want to say 6 man. He can still be the starting point guard out there. I just don't see him as the takeover control offensive guy that he used to be because...
Or that he thinks he is.
Yeah, because his body can't support it. So if he goes more assist game, he can still drive, but he can't go up to the hoop. He can do kick out to Carmelo, and that would solve our scoring problem. I just don't see him being that guy. Maybe even, I don't want to say Nate Robinson but maybe play style somewhat scaled back down. Scale back your expectations on Derrick Rose. He's 2 years off is not going to be kind to his shooting game.
And here's a thought. I'm going to throw it out there for Bulls fans out there. Don't crucify me for throwing this out there. But as I was watching the Bulls-Pistons game, they showed a shot of Coach Thibs, and I thought in my head, why isn't he on the hot seat? Or should he be on the hot seat? Because we've talked in this podcast how, let's say we do get a lottery pick rookie, and he doesn't play quality minutes next year. Why not get rid of Thibs and get someone who's actually going to, know the people that we're drafting, be able to scout well, and actually use them?
We see something similar when everybody kind of freaked out that we got rid of Lovie Smith for the Chicago Bears, a guy who was very successful. He had a good record because we're going to have a good record. The Chicago Bulls will be a playoff team. But it was the fact that we knew what we could get out of him. We already hit the peak. We're never going to get back to that. Are we at that same place?
I think we are.
My problem is
every year we say, we're about a 4 and a 5, but we're not going to beat Miami. That's
Very
what we
true.
said for the past 2 or 3 years.
But can we get someone better? I'm not confident that we can get someone better than Thibodeau.
Better how?
Right now we have the best, if not one of the best, defensive coaches.
True. But if the Bulls go in the direction that I'm hoping they do towards rebuilding, defensive head coach with super strict...
It's a scary word. I'm just going to say rebuilding. Just it makes me uneasy
I think Chicago
seat.
should get used to the word. I really do. I don't think he's the right head coach to rebuild a team. He seems like an old school coach, just absolutely to the point, strict. You follow the rules, fine. If not, I'm not even going to deal with you. I'm not going to play you. And I think we needed to go out and get somebody who, like Ricky was saying, knows the college scene, knows the players, can go out there. I'm looking for a college coach to come in, recruit the right guy, and play these younger guys and actually build up some core youth. I mean, look at what Oklahoma City did. They went out, tanked. I want to say tanked. They had extremely bad years for a couple years in a row, and they went out and got 3 core pieces to their franchise year after year after year. And then look at them now. Top team competing for a championship every year. I'm not saying we need to just absolutely suck for 3 straight years, but hitting this so-called peak with Tom Thibodeau, being the 4-5, not being able to compete against Miami without our superstar, and just having to say, maybe next year if he's healthy, maybe next year if he's healthy, maybe next year if he's healthy. I think you just have to pull the plug at some point and be like, look, cut our losses. You've been a great head coach, but you're not the right guy for what we're planning to do for the future.
Well, then where do you go? Do you go with the guy?
College.
Do you go with the guy that's more experienced, maybe does know the college game, or a coach right out of college?
I'm all for somebody coming with a college mindset who's actually in the scene right now in college. I'm thinking Shaka Smart would be a pretty ideal guy. I don't know if we'll be able to, if he would even be interested, but from every interview I've seen of him, from the way he handles himself, the way he handles his players, I respect him, and I think he would be a great fit.
I'm going to throw out, and this is when Dave says Shaka Smart, he's not saying that, the Bulls are going to get Shaka Smart.
No.
It's all what ifs. But the one thing to think about with that is this past, I want to say it was Boston, was Brad Stevens and Shaka Smart. They went with Brad Stevens. Shaka Smart signed a 10-year contract with VCU, and his contract stayed until 2013. I use air quotes that you can't see because contracts mean nothing.
Contracts mean absolutely nothing.
But I would like Shaka Smart. I just don't know if he'd want to come to the NBA.
I think if
He's had so much success at VCU being the underdog.
That's true. But if he came to the NBA in this situation, it would be like you get to build your own. I think that's a very enticing job for any coach.
The Chicago Buildables.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And again, Shaka Smart, the whole reason I'm picking him is because of his personality traits, his core mentality.
He deals well with kids right out of college.
And I think we've got a very young team, minus the old guys that are hanging on because of Thibodeau's regime. The Nazir Muhammads.
Heinrich, maybe Dunleavy that we just signed.
And it's these guys who are soaking up minutes over the young guys. Like, why are we going out and picking young guys to sit on our bench and do nothing if you go out and waste money on these older guys? And we already know what they have. And it's their pieces to set you over the top if we had that superstar. But we don't. So why are we going out and using it? That's the question. How many more years are we going to string along contracts for these guys to just try to get us over the cap? Oh, never mind. Didn't happen. Rose is out.
Well, and I mean, that the biggest question for the Bulls is how. I think it all comes down to how long are we going to want to sit in. I'm going to call it no man's land. That 4 to 6 seed is what I'm calling no man's land, where it's okay. Yeah, we're at best the 4 seed, but can we beat Indiana? Can we beat Miami? Can we beat those high end teams? We need to do something. And I think just bottom line, trade Dang, trade Boozer. Those are your first 2 moves. If that doesn't work, we get some rookies and they don't get playtime, maybe it's time for Thibs to go.
So you want to put the deadline for next season?
Yep, next season is the make or break because Derrick Rose will be coming back. We'll have an off season either get young.
He'll be back.
We hope, but we'll also have an off season to either sign free agents, get rid of the players we need to get rid of to either free up cap room or get some quality draft picks. We'll have another draft. And maybe, like Dave said, maybe it's time to start the rebuilding in Chicago.
And
before we have to hit the oh shit button.
Exactly. I don't want to say as reference point, but sell high is not a bad motto. Think about how New England Patriots handle their business. Think about how successful franchises in the NFL, I seem to see the trend more clearly there than the NBA because it's more of a star-driven league in the NBA. But in the NFL, it's just like, okay, this guy's really good, but you know what? He doesn't fit our plan. So let's sell him while he's high. Let's get the guys to replace him, and let's keep moving. I'm just thinking, okay, Wes Welker, you want the money? We made the exception. We've got the money for you. Oh, you want to go somewhere else? You know what? Do it. We'll just keep going without you. And they just keep going, losing pieces, filling in new pieces until they get the right fits. And it seems like it's a common trend among these successful franchises, those who are always winning. Let's talk about the Cardinals. They got rid of Pujols. They got rid of Freeze. And guess what? They look like the smartest guys in the block. Same thing in Boston. They know when to get rid of these guys when they're highly valued because they know what moves they're going to make to build this franchise upwards. They're not going to stay still. They don't want to be stagnant. That's the worst thing you can be.
Well, and I think that's where right now, at this very point in the Chicago Bulls timeline, that's where we're sitting. We're just sitting. And I'm tired of, like I've said before, I'm tired sitting at 4 and 5. Toronto and Atlanta are above us right now. Toronto is above us. That shouldn't sit well if you're a Chicago Bulls fan.
So now to further disappoint Chicago fans, we had a horrible game against the Rams. We got beat by what we had, 42-21. It was awful. We just couldn't keep up. I mean, that's the summary of this game. We could not keep up with the Rams.
We cannot stop a rushing attack by anyone. It could be a man in a wheelchair, and the Bears' defensive line could not stop him.
Well, and it wasn't even... Many people are like, oh, Dave's talking about Zach Stacy. No, Cunningham had more yards than Stacy, and he had 13 carries for the Rams. But also, Tavon Austin just went off for the Rams in this game.
That's stupid end around. Well, I'm for the fake end around.
His only rush.
It was a fake end around, and it was hilarious. But you got to admit, man, he is quick.
And it's sad, too, because the Bears try and do the same thing with Alshon Jeffrey, and it's just not the same.
4 yards.
It's not the same.
Well, no, Jeffrey had a good one, but it got called back due to a bullshit block or a bullshit holding penalty. I mean,
yeah, we
he really did hold, but...
We like to do that at least twice a game.
And for the love of fucking God, can we get a special teams play that doesn't result in a block in the back or a holding call on our defense or on our special team side?
It's amazing right now.
Every single time.
For the Bears, because you kind of underestimated Dave Tubb before, who was our special teams coach. He did amazing things. Our special teams is awful now.
Yeah. I think Hester's just... You saw him in the background when they took away that touchdown. He just gave up. He fell down on the field. Just like, I'm done. Fuck it.
Exactly. It's not good anymore. And obviously, our defense is an issue, too. We can't stop the run. We have tons of injuries. We're an older team. And then we have all these young guys who are just trying to survive.
I think we've got young guys in key positions, and that's the biggest thing, is you end up with 2 linebackers who are both rookies, who both didn't get first-team snaps in training camp the entire time. So they're both plugged in partially through the season. And you're expecting them to be able to make adjustments on that defense, to get everybody lined up in the correct holes, and then also to try to, either cover the pass, stop the run. There's a lot to manage as a linebacker in our defense. I think that's the biggest problem is we've got 2 young guys, and this defensive scheme does not lend itself to inexperienced guys second-guessing where they should be on the field at any given time.
Exactly. That's why we always have that giant gap in the center of our field, because either Green or Bostic will end up out of place a little bit because they're just young guys who don't quite have it.
Well, and then me being the offensive-minded guy, what was the one thing we talked about last week in the keys of the game?
How great our quarterback was.
No, besides that, who did the Bears have to use? Matt Forte? Yeah, he got 16 carries, but only 77 yards in this game. 0 touchdowns. That's not going to cut it.
For this Bears team, there's a few things.
Okay, 0 touchdowns is bullshit because we kept bringing in Bush to go -2 yards, -4 yards. Oh, we got a positive play, -2.
Who Trestman says he's fine with Bush. He's happy with Bush for some reason.
I'll read you off Bush's stat line. He had 7 carries for -5 yards and a touchdown.
-0.7 average.
Apparently he backed into the end zone because he had negative yards and a touchdown.
His longest run was 3 yards.
I booed him coming onto the field. He didn't deserve the touchdown.
It's awful.
And that's not even from a fantasy perspective.
Are you just saying? Are you just saying?
No, that's just hate.
Team?
He doesn't deserve to be out there.
Honestly, should be cut. I mean, I like to just kind of over-exaggerate when players make mistakes and say, cut him.
Conti.
Yeah.
Okay, no, Conti does deserve to get cut.
Get out of here. Those are the 2 players on the Bears right now. If I somehow got to make 2 decisions, 2 personnel decisions, cut Conti, cut Bush.
Our power back couldn't get across the 1-yard line about 6 attempts in a row.
I'm willing to bet that Fiametta could have taken the ball.
I'm all for
Fiametta
touchdown at this point.
Fiametta had a nice catch out of the backfield from McCown. Got you guys into the red zone.
I mean, he's a fullback, so you don't expect tons of stuff out of him.
Can we just go back to like the old school days and give like Wooten the ball and have him run it in? He was a running back in college.
Okay, Refrigerator Perry.
Wooten was a running back in Texas.
It did work. Don't forget.
But was this more of what did the Bears like?
What did the Bears do wrong?
Is it
how bad the refs were?
Is it that, or is it how are the Rams good?
No,
is that what they show?
The thing about the Rams, they're just a really fast team, and the
Tavon
Bears
Austin.
can't keep up. Tavon Austin and Stacey was able to run all over
Tavon
us as well.
Austin's a fast player.
But that's the thing. You have these two key guys, because I'm including Stacey in this,
Okay.
who can just destroy this defense. This defense is already weak. They just went and ran all over us. There was nothing the Bears could do about it, and then they just couldn't get the offense going.
And that was the biggest thing. I agree with you. Is our defense can't stop a cold, and our offense got started late. It seemed. Honestly, if you watched the fourth quarter of that game, you watched such a time sink in one drive. It was just a hilarious comedy of penalties, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it was absolutely ridiculous.
Well, and one of the things that I just noticed was you guys say Bears can't stop the run. Oh, who do they have to play this week? Adrian Peterson.
Fortunately, I was going to say fortunately they have no idea what's going on in the quarterback situation and the passing game, but did the Rams have any idea what was happening with Clemens out there? So apparently the Bears can't win anymore because we can't stop anybody who can at least have somebody who has legs running the football. Peterson easily can get 250 yards against this Bears defense.
You think so? You think he's going to go for 250?
Easily.
We can put 11 in the box at this point because we don't have to cover anybody because you don't have a quarterback.
I mean, in the tie, yes, I'm saying tie against Green Bay, AP had 146. You think he's going to go for 250 against the Bears?
I think it's 180 to 200 range. I'm all for that.
Honestly, I have no confidence in the Bears being able to stop him, even if every single play. You know what? They can leave Christian Ponder off to the side, direct snap to AD,
Wildcat?
and let him go. No,
Wildcat?
just put him in the shotgun all the way back and let him just run it.
Just
Like
bring
a
in
punt returner.
Just bring in 10 linemen.
I still don't even believe that the Bears would be able to stop Peterson for that.
Nope.
So as Bear fans, you're not optimistic about this game.
Oh,
against
no,
the
we're going to
Vikings.
beat you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the Vikings.
Yeah. Who the fuck would lose to the Vikings?
We did just tie to the Packers.
That's
Tie.
embarrassing.
Congratulations. The Packers also just got destroyed with Matt Flynn in there, the only guy who can really beat the Lions. He has the record.
He was
which
the
is
Lion
hilarious.
Slayer.
He's got the record for, I think it was passing yards for the Packers. And then this one, 40-10. I just love it.
It was a
Anyways,
beatdown.
Had to rub that into Packers fans. But anyways, for the Bears, yeah, we can beat the Vikings. But unfortunately, it's going to be a shootout of Adrian Peterson versus Josh McCown.
I like McCown's odds. We got wide receivers out there. We got tight ends. We got the weapons for them.
Well, I mean, everyone that I've seen has been like, oh, well, this game was a 1-point game back in week whatever. Well, that was when Jay Cutler was there. The Bears' defense was stronger. I don't think you can even look at the early season matchup between these teams.
No, they're completely different.
You can throw it out the window because at that point, Cutler was still trying to get his footing with this offense. I mean, we hadn't really seen him hit his stride yet.
And I mean, with McCown, maybe if he's in the game, Martellus Bennett doesn't get the game-winning touchdown because McCown hates Bennett.
No, he'll throw it to him in the end zone.
Yeah, that's the only time he throws the ball.
Just the middle of the field. Why would we waste a throw on that?
Yeah.
We
He
got
only has
other guys.
one touchdown though from Bennett or from McCown. But I mean, it's an interesting situation for the two teams because they are both so different. They all basically have giant question marks on top of them.
And they're at different spots. The Vikings, if they win the game, whoop-de-doo, you're 3-8-1. The Bears need to win just to keep pace with the Lions.
Yeah, exactly.
To stay tied with the Lions for the head of the NFC North.
The Vikings need to lose to stay on pace for number 1 overall.
I don't think we're going to get number 1 overall with that tie. I mean, Atlanta is 2-9.
You gotta hope that a few of those teams win a game.
Houston and Atlanta are not winning games. Those are the only two teams below us.
I think there's a chance they will.
This week is, as a Vikings fan, I want to pick the Vikings. But the thing is, when I pick the Vikings, they tie. So I think the Bears can win this one, although Adrian Peterson is going to have a huge day because why should Christian Ponder even throw the ball? Just give it to AP 30 times a game.
Why should Christian Ponder even be on the field?
Are we going to have, and this is an obscure football reference here, so just play with me. Right now, are we going to see maybe Florida against Georgia Southern. Miami's
That's what
not
I'm
not even going to have a passing yard. Just have Minnesota 600. What was it? Georgia Southern had 600 rushing yards on Florida. Didn't even have a single passing yard in the game and beat Florida. We going to see that in this game? Just give it to AP all day?
I think they're going to have a lot going to the quarterback. It's just that Adrian Peterson's going to be the quarterback. They're just going to not let Christian Ponder go out there.
Just
going to
play him in the shotgun 10 linemen.
Yep, exactly. Why the hell not? It's not like you guys can pass the ball anyways.
But if you could, it'd be over the back end when Chris Conte's supposed to be in coverage.
Yeah, and that won't work.
Well, and guys, before we get to our quick NFL picks for Week 13, I want to talk a little college football, and I want to talk Heisman race in particular, just because of what's going on. Last week we talked about famous Jameis and his sexual assault charges. Well, no one made a decision this week. They're going to push it back at least 2 weeks, and that's kind of affecting the Heisman race because, yes, he's number one right now in polls, but there are some voters that are taking him off completely just because of this scandal, I'm going to call it.
And that isn't exactly like an unheard of response. I think it's correct that they should distance themselves from someone who's being accused of such a heinous crime. I'm just curious about how this whole thing's going to turn out. Are they going to make the decision before the Heisman comes out? I mean, how their timeline for the court versus the Heisman is what I'm concerned with.
I want to say ESPN did it this week, and right now the scheduled decision of to charge him or not is going to be after the ACC championship game, and I think 2 days before the presentation of the Heisman. It's after the votes are in, though. So it's in between the votes being in and the actual presentation is when they're scheduled to say we're going to charge you or not.
Very interesting timing. It's interesting because of 2 reasons. The people who are going to ignore it until there's a decision made, it's easy for them. It's easy. Jameis Winston, he's got it.
Innocent till proven guilty.
Exactly. Unfortunately, that's usually not the case. So there's going to be a lot of people who, like you're saying, Ricky, are just throwing him out, not even going to consider him. Let me go to somebody else. Who's next up?
Well, and right now, I mean, quarterback-wise, a lot of people are putting A.J. McCarron up there because they're like, okay, take famous Jameis out of it. What do we have left? And A.J. McCarron's kind of there. There's also Johnny Manziel, and then the NIU kind of record setter in DeKalb. You have Jordan Lynch, but also running back Andre Williams from Boston College, who's kind of come up as a dark horse in the Heisman watch because until this week, I didn't even know who this kid was.
He's an absolute beast of a runner. If you didn't notice, go check out some Boston College clips. He's in probably every one of them.
Not even just the clips. This week, ESPN put up his numbers this month compared to that historic November that Barry Sanders had. He's ahead of pace of Barry Sanders.
We just got to remember one thing. Running backs don't win Heisman trophies anymore.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's all about the quarterback.
But if, let's say, enough voters take Jameis Winston out of it, is this guy going to win by default?
I think those votes will flip over to the next available quarterback.
Which will be A.J. McCarron, you think?
Might not be.
Or is it Jordan Lynch?
I don't think A.J. McCarron deserves the spot, to be honest with you. I think he's got a great reputation. He's on a winning team.
He wins games, yes.
And he can win some games, but I don't believe that means he deserves a Heisman. I'd vote Manziel or maybe even Jordan Lynch.
If you had to pick one, Manziel or Lynch.
I'm a fanboy for Manziel. I think Lynch is an amazing athlete, but he's not.
But who has he played?
As quarterback and
doesn't
competition.
that say something, though? You're playing Johnny Manziel, a guy who's got great receivers around him, who's got a great team around him compared to...
Minus the defense.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not playing defense. You're comparing that to NIU. Who does Jordan Lynch have around him? Bunch of nobodies who couldn't get into the other schools.
So he got into the end zone himself.
Exactly. He does it himself.
Well, and one of the things that ESPN, I was watching SportsCenter this week, they pulled up, and the last quarterbacks to run for at least 20 touchdowns and throw for 20 touchdowns, you have Johnny Manziel, Cameron Newton, Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick. 3 of those 4 guys have won the Heisman. Just saying.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of disrespect to a guy like Jordan Lynch, and you do get it, obviously. Well, I mean, we're completely disrespecting by saying running back we'll talk about you later. But for Jordan Lynch, I think there's a huge disrespect in the fact of everyone. We saw it when they got into the Orange Bowl last year, and people freak out. I mean, literally, ESPN analysts, guys who get paid to objectively talk about sports, are shitting their pants because NIU doesn't deserve to be there, even though the rules are set up that way, and that's how they got in. And that's how they're going to get into another BCS Bowl, and we're going to see guys freak out about it again. That's just my thought about Jordan Lynch, why he won't win it, even though I think he completely deserves to be... He completely deserves, I think, to win it or to at least be in the discussion, and a lot of people take him right out.
If you were a voter, would you put him in as your Heisman vote?
I have to admit a little bit of bias because I'm an NIU fan, but I would put him over it. I would put him over everybody else. McCarron, he's on Alabama. Of course Alabama's good. He doesn't have to do anything, and they're still going to win games. And then when it comes to Johnny Manziel, I think the amount of star power that's around him, and don't get me wrong, Johnny Manziel, fantastic quarterback. I can't wait to see him play in the NFL. But he's got so much around him compared to Jordan Lynch, who has to do it himself.
And I just looked up. With my vote, I'd probably go Lynch too. But with running backs, the only two running backs to win the Heisman since we turned over to the new millennium, Mark Ingram, 2009, Reggie Bush, 2005.
Two spectacular runners who had just all the hype in the world around them throughout the entire season. So that's why I don't think that we're going to see a running back take it this year.
You don't think Williams has a shot? Not a chance, is quoting
He's
Patrick
had a late
Kane?
surge, but it's not enough. He hasn't had the spotlight on him all season. And I think Winston's probably got it locked up. I'm not locked up is the wrong term. I think he's probably got it.
Even with what his attorney
Looming
is,
overhead, yeah.
the cloud.
Yep, because it hasn't dropped yet. It hasn't hit the fan.
I don't know. I feel like, with me personally, I feel like enough voters are going to be like, is this the guy we really want winning the Heisman?
Well, here's the thing.
And putting character issues into that, even though Heisman should translate to best player on the field.
We're going to see Winston have a huge chance to prove himself in his championship game. And then we're also going to see McCarron have a chance to just break out in the Iron Bowl. So those two games will probably decide the Heisman.
The Iron Bowl and the ACC championship
I believe
game?
so, yeah. We're going to see just absolutely whoever has the best performance there has a very high chance of taking it. And I think it will be Winston.
And one other thing, I just want to throw the question out to you guys, that just honing in on Winston, because we talked about it last week, with knowing that he could either be charged or not in between the votes coming in for the Heisman and the presentation, and let's say they win out, they're going to the BCS championship game. How would you feel as a Florida State fan if they win out, they go to the championship game, boom, Winston's charged, he doesn't play in the game because he's going to be suspended then if he is?
I think you feel cheated. You have to feel cheated. I mean, you're probably going to be mad at Winston as well, but you have to feel cheated that you couldn't have given us a little bit more time to get prepared. I mean, the world fucking revolves around football. And let's be honest, all of this is revolving around football, whether they want to claim it does or not. They could have given a little bit of extra time, is how you're going to feel if you're a Florida State fan.
Dave, what do you think? How would you feel if you were an FSU fan and that happened?
I'm pretty much in line with Mark on this one. It almost seems like it was already pushed down. The story was pretty much kept under wraps for long enough.
A year.
Yeah. So it seems like it wouldn't be too much to ask for another couple weeks. But and that's just kind of the way the world works right now. And it's not right, but it's not going to miraculously change just because it's wrong, you know?
Well, and I mean, even on a different spin, from the Ohio State standpoint, then you'd feel like at that point, well, why didn't you charge them sooner? Because maybe they would have lost and we would be in that game. So I mean, each fan is going to feel differently. But we're going to end the podcast today on some quick picks through Week 13 of the NFL. We already made all of us are saying Bears over the Vikings. Next one, Jags Browns. I'm going with the Browns.
Yeah, we're all going Browns on this one as well.
What about Colts Titans? All Colts?
Colts are playing like shit lately, but
they're the Titans, and they beat the Titans once already, and that was on the road.
I don't know. This will be a close game.
The home game helps out the Colts a lot in this one. I'm going Colts.
Yep.
Dolphins, Jets, a game that Jets didn't play well last week. Do they play well this week? The on-off
No,
method?
because they sucked 2 weeks in a row, so I'm just throwing that theory out the window.
And you're going Dolphins?
Going Dolphins.
I'm going to go the big green machine. Go Jets.
Jets have the worst offense in the NFL right now.
Yeah, you can't
Lack
trust.
of talent.
Oh,
You
in the
can't
NFL?
trust.
Lack of talent.
Look at Geno Smith. How many
Worse
how
than
many
Jacksonville?
throws has he completed the last few weeks, guys? Under 10 in the last 3 games.
Good.
Got to go with the Tannehills.
Good news if you're Mark Sanchez. Like, I was watching TV this week, and they brought up his name, and I was like, oh, I forgot he was even a quarterback.
He's
I'm
not-
sorry.
he's
it's
never
not going to
starting
happen.
You don't think he's coming
Nope.
back?
Not for the Jets.
For the Jets, I'm saying.
Yeah, he's not starting for the Jets.
Cardinals, Eagles. I like my honey badger. I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
Yeah, he's going to get plenty of opportunities against this Eagles team. Yeah, Foles throwing the ball around a lot. But I'm going to lead towards the Cardinals. It seems like they're finally putting the pieces together in the right order. Defense coming together, offense coming together. I like them.
I'm actually going for the Eagles on this one. I think Nick Foles, very impressive right now. I mean, he, is almost, if not as good as Peyton Manning. So there's
Stats would say.
Stats would say. So I'm taking the Eagles on this one. I think they're going to do a good job.
The 7 wins in a row for the Carolina Panthers or the Buccaneers. Who's clawing up?
They just can't stop clawing up. I'm going with the Panthers.
Mike
I'm
Lennon's
gonna
going to
claw
stop
up.
this train. I'm sorry, guys.
Mike Lennon's going to stop
Yup.
it? Really, against this ferocious claw-up defense?
You guys don't suspect the Buccaneers, but just keep your eyes
The
out.
Panthers have the best defense. I mean, they even denied Gronk in the end zone. Just throwing that out there for you, Dave. And then you got going from, I mentioned Gronk, Patriots-Texans. Do the Texans get a
no
win?
contest.
No? Not at
No,
all?
not even at home.
Even in Houston?
They don't even get a
Patriots
showing.
got this.
I'm going to go with the Pats as well. And then from 2-9 to another, Falcons 2-9 at the 4-7 Bills.
I got to go with the Bills on this one. I will say with these past 2 games, I kind of feel like one of the head coaches of these 2-9 teams are getting fired this week.
Just when you thought the
This
Falcons
week?
couldn't suck more.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be Mike Smith.
Oh.
So you're saying Kubiak's going?
Kubiak should be fired. He should have been fired this past week, but he wasn't. They were being nice to him for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's a nice belief, I'm with the Bills in this one as well.
And I will throw out the Bills game. It's not in Buffalo. It's in Toronto.
Doesn't matter.
Falcons, Bills in Toronto.
It's the Bills' second home. They play multiple games
Okay.
in Toronto.
It's a true story.
And then we have, I'm going with the upset here. Rams beat the Bears last week. They're going to go into Candlestick, get it done against Kaepernick, Gore, and the Niners.
False.
I really don't think it's that much of an upset just because they had the tie last year. Let's not forget about the tie.
Yeah, the Rams had the best division record in the conference, so I'm going with the 49ers on this one. They play them close every year. It really is just, you can kind of throw everything out when it comes to these in rivalry matchups. So I'm going 49ers. Got to take this one. It seems like the 49ers. Kaepernick's kind of gotten out of that funk he was in earlier during the season. So put my faith with them.
Yeah, I think the Rams are a fast team, but the 49ers have a way better defense than the Bears' defense. Going with the Niners.
AFC West Part 2, Broncos at Chiefs. 5-1 at home speaks loudly. I'm going with KC all day, every day.
Yeah, but the Chiefs have kind of been falling apart since that first loss they had to the Broncos. They're just not looking so good anymore.
Yeah.
I'm still going with the Broncos.
I'm with you. I think I made my mistake. I thought the Chiefs could totally take out Peyton Manning during the first matchup.
Yeah, but that was in Denver, and they didn't even blitz. You got to blitz. You got to put pressure on Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning's one of the best quarterbacks under pressure in the NFL.
Yeah, but you got to make it at least a little hard for
Quick
him.
slant to Wes Welker. That's my answer.
Yeah, I think we've only seen that 5 billion times.
Bengals Chargers.
This is a tough one for me. Really is. I'm taking the Chargers, which is, if you listen to the podcast, you know I do not like Phillip Rivers, but I don't like Andy Dalton that much either.
Yeah, this Bengals team is not likable. They're just one...
Except for A.J. Green.
1 week they're up, the next week they're down. A.J. Green is their constant. I'm leaning towards the Chargers as well in this matchup.
I'm going to go Chargers just because it's in San Diego. And then the Sunday night matchup, Giants against the pitiful Washington Redskins.
Well, the Giants are only 4-7. I mean, you can't call one of these teams pitiful without kind of mentioning the other one, too. But fortunately for the Giants, they're on kind of a run right now. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. I think that the Giants, honestly, they're not as bad as they were at first. We were very down on them. I'm a little more optimistic and I think they can beat the Redskins.
And I'm gonna raise your statement about coaches being fired and put an NFC spin on it. One of these two coaches is going to be fired at the end of this year, and it's not going to be Tom Coughlin.
Well, it's never Tom Coughlin. Every year he's on the hot seat, and every year he pulls out some little rabbit out of his hat, and poof, he's got his job for another year. So I guess that wraps all three of our picks into the Giants.
And then the last game, the game of the week, Monday night. Who will win the NFC for right now? Saints at the 12th man in Seattle.
It's the Seahawks. I think the home field advantage is going to be huge. Last time the Saints went up there, with high hopes to beat down the Seahawks, didn't work out so well.
Hold my dick.
Marshawn Lynch, monster.
I'm going with the Hawks as well.
I'm actually going to go with the Saints. I think they're going to come marching in.
No. You mean the Aints?
Nope.
The Aints are coming into Seattle.
Going with the Saints. You almost tricked me on that one.
The Aints.
Going with the Saints. They're going to go in there. I don't think Drew Brees has any problem.
I think Richard Sherman will argue with you.
I think they're going to have a good time up there, and they're going to have quite the scoring effort.
Well, that's going to do it for the Onside Kick. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that like button. Comment down below if you agree with us, disagree with us, just want to say hey. We'll say hey back. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/The Onside Kick and on Twitter at Onside Kick Real. And as always, have a good day, everybody.